let's go back to what I don't have time to explain about. Jose, you brought up a great topic, and why don't you lay this out for people a little bit?
Oh, sure. So this week, probably 2 days ago, the No Time to Explain quest line sort of started. If you're unfamiliar with what that is, it is an exotic version of the Stranger's Rifle.
Pulse rifle.
It is a pulse rifle.
It's really good.
And with the Taken King and with 2.0, actually, behind the scenes, if you were to complete that quest again, rather than get a rare version of the Stranger's Rifle, they upgraded it to Legendary. And then No Time to Explain is an exotic version, which surprised me. But this was another example of a time-gated quest. So if you had already found the ghost shells, Praetus in the mission Paradox,
and then you
which
ran
takes
it
place
again
at the Vault of Glass.
Yeah.
Well, you didn't have to run it again. So what would happen is when
you got
loaded
the weapon,
up the
right?
game, you ended up at the tower and you had instruction to go see Future War
Now, let me ask you, was this before or after you completed the daily for the second time?
Well, I didn't complete Paradox before I got the quest. So I had completed it a few weeks ago.
Got it.
When it was discovered that these shells were there and that there was another alternate ending.
So the next time Paradox rolled around, you had the Future War Call quest.
Yeah, I already had.
And that was get 1,000 rep.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
it starts with the first
percent clarity, right?
Yeah.
A week and a half ago or whatever, in the daily, they discovered the 3 ghosts you got to fight, whatever. Praetus goes.
And then that opens a portal, and then you fight a whole different alternate ending.
Right. So you had to do it then in the daily, just like Black Spindle. Yeah. And then what happened is it appeared on what, Monday or Tuesday or something of this week? Or was
it appeared this week, and it became and so then basically you got a new quest line, which I'm forgetting the name, and I apologize for that. But
it's basically get 1,000 rep with Future War
was
Call.
the first step, and then the second step is to do a certain thing, and it's probably 4 or 5 steps long.
And then eventually you go back into Vault.
Which is what I really enjoyed about it. So this whole time-gated quest system, I think, is interesting. It sort of sets us up, I think, to impulsively jump on when a discovery gets made. Like if you're someone who watches IGN or is reading Reddit constantly and finds, hey, we found these ghost shells, but then the trail goes cold. It might be in your best interest to try and do those as soon as they happen, because it seems like a few days later or a week later, someone flips a switch and this quest line will show up, and if you haven't completed it, you're not going to get that right now.
I waited because I thought the ghosts were part of all the new collectibles, and I wanted to make sure I captured all the ghosts at the same time. They're not. It seems like they spawn every time you do the quest, and they're part of that alternate ending.
Yeah, and shout out to friend of the show, Nathan, because if he hadn't said, hey, let's just do this, I probably wouldn't have, and I wouldn't have gotten the rifle the other day. But I did like that the quest line eventually led you back to the Vault of Glass. Now, someone who played somewhat regularly in year 1, I mean, we were constantly in the Vault of Glass because there was that exotic chest, and it was also a really good raid.
Exotic chest, and it was the only way to get to 30. You had to get the full gear set.
Initially, that's right. And then even after the expansions, it was just fun to run it. It was a very different experience than Crota. And it felt like it was still worth running back then, especially with House of Wolves when they had Etheric Light, and you can still take something like Fatebringer or a weapon that you got there, a drop, and ascend that weapon and be able to continue to use it because the damage threshold got lifted. So it was just fun to be back there. It was fun to down Atheon. If you have Sleeper Simulant, oh my goodness, like kiss Atheon goodbye.
Yeah, Atheon goes through down in 1 round.
1 round, done.
Level 30 boss. I'm very
and then
impressed.
you get this rifle. And then you have this rifle with a node that if every precision shot apparently can be returned to the magazine, which is
it's like basically bad juju without having to.
I like that you almost called it black juju.
We're gonna get that eventually.
Yeah, we're gonna get black juju, but no.
It's like the sniper Black Spindle.
That's why I made the mistake.
Yeah. But how do you guys feel about gated quest though right now? I feel like we talked about this before, but I want to revisit it because this is the second or third. Like just this showed up. Did you do it today? If you did, you got something. So
with Black Spindle, that was cool. It was a daily you got to run through, and you could complete it that day. It didn't like open up a whole sub quest line or anything like that. You just got the weapon with what was the Sleeper Simulant. That was kind of interesting. What were the steps with that one? I don't remember exactly.
Oh, I'm forgetting.
That quest shows up, which is it Rasputin's? I didn't get to do it.
Yeah.
But the quest shows up to go to Rasputin's lair or whatever.
Yeah, you basically had a day to go to Rasputin's lair. It got kicked off if you found all the the rifle parts and gave it to the gunsmith.
And then randomly it would show up.
Yeah. Which is similar actually to this one. This one you needed to turn in those shells.
So this one I don't like. I don't like how this one works because you have to have done the mission before. We had no idea what those ghosts were. You collect them, you do the alternate route, and then the trail just goes cold until it's the daily again, and then the quest pops from Future War Call. It's just confusing, like why they decided to to do it like that. And another thing, I really don't like the system introduced with year 2, like with the gunsmith and getting weapon orders. It's like you put in your orders, they're gonna eat up all that inventory space for a week. Have fun.
Yeah,
and it's just like, why do I have to wait a week? Why don't I wait? Like I could get a day, but a whole week? I don't like that. That's a new mechanic they've introduced.
Yeah, I don't think I have I mean, this is slightly off the point, and I do want to address the first thing you said.
Really
but the fact that they take up inventory doesn't bother me, or that you have to wait a week doesn't bother me too much. I think the fact that they just take up space, that the orders themselves take up space in an inventory. It's a weapon that's on the way, and I get that you want me to remember that.
That's a separate topic.
Yeah, but that's separate. But going back to this time-gated business, I think it's okay, but I think Bungie is vastly underestimating the amount of the thought and how far players are willing to go to try and decipher some of these quests. And I think the idea of this being time-gated content that's slowly going to be rolling out, to me, kind of mirrors what happened with Nintendo and Splatoon, where the conversation kept going because every week a new weapon got popped into the rotation or a map showed up out of nowhere. And so people kept talking about it. That's this layer of excitement to it. However, I do think that they are underestimating. It shouldn't just be that. It shouldn't just be waiting for something to show up. I think they should give people the puzzle pieces and let them figure it out. And so far, there hasn't been any evidence of that in year 2 right now.
I agree with you, Jose. I feel like time gating, it's kind of a dull and simple mechanic that, I mean, they're smarter than that. Like, they're better than that. And like, just saying, okay, player, you have to wait X amount of time until something else opens. I'm just like, really? Like, that's the best you could come up with for this quest line?
So here's my challenge is, I actually think it's more of a problem with the quest than it is the time gate. And my example would be, wouldn't you all agree Black Spindle is actually good? Like, it shows up.
Yes, that's one of the ones I like. It's exciting. It's challenging. Yeah.
So meaning, in terms of using the term time gate, like, it is time gate. You can only do it when it's showing up as part of the daily. I don't mind that, actually. Yes, I need it to show up on the weekend sometime, like not just a Tuesday because I have a job. Like, they need to think about that stuff and get it in the mix, right? So I like that. I don't mind that. Like, you know what I mean? As much as I need it, I kind of like the surprise. I do think there's a percentage of I don't like it because, you know, you're just trying to get through the raid and you could really use Black Spindle. I think it kind of sucks to have to wait maybe a week and a half. And if you're working that day or out with friends, you like might be out for 2 weeks. That being said, I like the surprise. But I definitely, on the questline stuff, like collecting calcified fragments, like ghost shells, and like
the whole farming materials thing, it's just like, that's a mechanic they admitted they don't like. So why are you using it again? Well, it doesn't make sense to me.
I think it's an easy fallback, I have to be honest.
It is, but here's why. There's only so many ingredients in Destiny, right? And they have shooting, right? And that is really why people play it, to shoot stuff. I mean, I like jumping on stuff, right? But if you go through the various things you can do, I like going to the tower occasionally, but I like shooting stuff. That's why Court of Oryx is pretty awesome. I mean, even that needs a remix, but it's cool because it's a quarter drop and it's go, 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 and you just keep shooting stuff. And that's fun. Like, I use weapons. That's what I'm earning. But the problem with these quests for me is, like, they only have so many things they can make you do. And it's like, it's not like Metroid Prime, right? Where I'm like, oh man, there's like that crack in the wall back in the Cosmodrome. Now that I have this rocket, like, I'm going to be able to shoot it with a friend who has like an ice version. And I mean, it's not that
I hear what you're saying.
And like the sword quest, like get void kills with a Titan is just ridiculously trying.
So that's the problem. There's only so many things they can make you do to draw something out. And so to finish the point, I like the surprise element. And actually, even there might be something like November 20th that happens that is like, oh, cool, a reason to come back. I like that philosophy. What I don't like is the mechanics that they have to use. I would rather go to the Court of Oryx and have to use my icebreaker or something. Like, that's something I will happily do because it's fun to shoot stuff. But not in a tedious way. Like, don't draw it out too much. You know? Like, that's my feeling.
Like, go to the moon and collect stuff for 2 hours to get a sword. That's not it's memorable, but not in a good way. And they want your quest for exotics to be something you remember, and you're like, oh, remember that crazy adventure I went on? And not remember when I ran in a circle and collected helium filaments for 2 hours?
Luckily, there's not many examples of that, but I think the hurdle for them is that it's happening
it's one of the
at
best
a portion of the game when it's one of the best weapons in the game, and that's why it becomes a point of contention. Like, if this was just a forgettable, you get a legendary, I don't think any of us would mind, but you're talking about a legendary, an exotic sword, which at the end of the day, everyone really wants.
Yeah.
So I agree with Fran that the time gate system is a cool way to surprise people. I just think the things you're doing during some of it isn't very surprising or just feels very sort of dumbed down. I mean, I want to see them get experimental with stuff. I want to see, like, okay, maybe 4 of you have to go to a specific spot and dance. Like, I want something weird.
Yeah.
I want something that you got a clue and you have to put things together. Or, you know, sparrows are also hugely neglected, I feel, in Destiny.
They didn't
introduce
the racing. They didn't introduce sparrow racing, which is something we asked for some of the patrol missions, which was nice. It's nice that they thought of that.
Yeah, I mean, it still doesn't... at least for me, it doesn't line up as a track or a course would. And I'm not asking for that, but I am asking just to kind of continue to find smart ways to experiment outside of things, and also, you know, find ways to pull more relics into the experience. I feel like even that's not there enough.
I think final thought on that is gated quests are interesting. We kind of like them. We feel like they just need a little tweaking. You know, like there's a few missteps, and they could be adjusted to be a little better.
Yeah, remember, it's a double-edged sword. Like, we didn't like...
I have to get my... Before the sword gets introduced, I have to go collect, void kills.
That's right. But but remember, we did not like going an entire year, and I knew someone who played, like, I don't know, 1,000 hours. Didn't get Galahorn.
You
too. It took a long time.
You pointing at me?
That's awful. That's awful. So now, on a Tuesday night, you've been dying to get it.
I got it now, but yeah.
The point is, they've introduced something like with Black Spindle. I like that. But at the same time... It kind of sucks that I want Touch and Mouse or whatever, but now I'm like collecting all these calcified fragments and stuff.
Yeah.
But it's just, it's not fun.